There's no better place for me to get a great look at some phenomenal potential investments than looking at the SEs that come through Miller Center.
Hi, I'm Bridget Helms, Executive Director at Miller Center for Social Entrepreneurship. And I am so excited to launch our Impact Pioneer video series to commemorate our 25th anniversary as ourselves being a pioneer in the social impact space. And I'm further excited to start this conversation with Jeff Miller, none other than the chair and chief benefactor of Miller Center. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you, Bridget.
So what was Miller Center like when you first got involved?
Well, first of all, this is 2001. First of all, it wasn't Miller Center.
Right.
It was the Center for Science, Technology, and Society, a name that only an academic could love. And basically in 2001, it was an experiment, is what it really was. And it was an experiment driven by several professors out of the Levy School of Business, whose idea was that could they put together, their premise was, could they put together a curriculum that could be delivered by Silicon Valley high-tech mentors, executives serving as mentors, to help social entrepreneurs put at least a dent in the Millennium Development Goals, which in those days, I mean, it had only been a year, obviously, that they were around, but not much had been happening. And so their premise was that social entrepreneurship was the way to solve this, that you giving people money is one thing, but helping businesses become more sustainable and more scalable. If you could help them do that, then they could address more beneficiaries. That was the fundamental premise, but it wasn't an experiment. And like everything in the true nature of Silicon Valley, we were making it up as we went along. And quite frankly, in the early days, I think we were learning as much as the SEs were, as we went through, for example, those first couple of cohorts.
Really ahead of its time.
It was very much ahead of its time. But we were so far ahead of our time, we didn't even know we were ahead of our time.
Exactly. So cool. That's really cool. During your work at Miller Center, what is one aha moment that just stands out?
I'm going to give you two.
Okay.
One is at scale, and one is very individual and very personal. The first one is the annual celebration of the women weavers of all across Africa. Just a phenomenal company that uses women weavers to make beautiful basket-like products that you will now see in Target, Costco, Ethan Allen, Starbucks, all kinds of places. So a fantastic company. But the event we went to was they have an annual celebration where they get 2,000 women weavers coming there, dressed to the nines in these beautiful, brightly colored African outfits. I'm sure there's names for them that I don't know. And each group gets up and reports on their success of the year. They're doing it in Swahili. It doesn't matter. You get it. They are so excited. They are so proud. Through all across Africa, they make like 5 times as much as they ever could, completely change the dynamics of their household. In many cases, they're now the primary breadwinners. That has all kinds of implications, all of them positive, by the way. But these women are so justifiably proud of what they have done. In those days, they had 2,000, maybe 3,000 women weavers. By the end of this year, there'll be over 10,000 women weavers and farmers now. Some of those, by the way, will be men. That's fine, as they're expanding their business. And these are the celebration was in Rwanda, but they're now in Rwanda, Uganda, Ghana, and Tanzania. So, a fantastic success story at scale. The other one is working with a company called Livelihoods, about the same time period. They take young women, young people, men and women, in urban slums and teach them how to sell appropriate products into their neighborhood, if you will. So I went there literally to the worst slum in Nairobi, Kenya. Went early in the morning. They had a sales training hour in the morning, of which I participated in, which was as good as sales training I've seen in Silicon Valley, which is fantastic.
Very cool. Yeah.
And then I went out with Irene. Irene is 23 years old. She's got a 3-year-old daughter that she's trying to feed by selling a very efficient, but for that neighborhood, expensive cook stove, what's called a burn cook stove. Irene is a natural salesperson. She's fantastic. And so I'm watching her, and every woman that walks by, she's talking to and trying to sell the stove. And there's a lot of pluses, but she's not selling anything. And so we have a discussion, and kind of in real time, I make a suggestion to her, a sales-oriented suggestion. She turns around, the next woman she talks to, she goes through the exact same process she always does. She says one more thing. All of a sudden, they're shaking each other's hands. She's taking the woman's name down. And she had implemented what I said on the fly with no practice, no hesitation, no nothing. I've done lots of sales training to people. This doesn't normally work out that way. In the next hour, she sold 5 cook stoves.
It's incredible. How will Miller Center continue to blaze the path over the next 25 years?
Oh, Lord. Well, first of all, I hope I'm around to see it. Based on my mom, who's now 94, reasonable opportunity there. I think 2 things. I think externally to the campus, what I'd really like to see is I would like to see Miller Center be the place impact investors come to get well-trained, well-vetted social entrepreneurs that can both make a dramatic impact on the world, but also make an appropriate return to the investors. And so, and the work that you and the team are doing right now, I think is fantastic. Bridget, we're in the early days of that. Impact investing is in the early days.
Yeah.
But you know, as you have said, you know, we want to become the go-to place on the demand side, and I think we can do it. Yeah. On campus, and again, one of the things you're working on, I want us to be able to push the concept of social entrepreneurship everywhere in this university. It is so aligned with the Jesuit values of basically making this a better world, that every student, I don't care what your major is, should have some understanding of this and have an opportunity, at least if they choose, to get involved in some way in social entrepreneurship or be aware of it when they're here at Santa Clara. Are they all going to, you know, make that their life's goal? No, most of them aren't. But on the other hand, when they have normal careers, whatever that is, you know, and they make enough money and they're prosperous enough, they'll never forget what they learned here, and that this might be a great way to give back.
What does being an impact pioneer mean to you?
I think it means that, for me at least, it is the perfect way to give back. So it's interesting. I'm reading a history of Silicon Valley now, and the cornerstones of Silicon Valley, innovation and entrepreneurship, to me, are exactly what impact investing is all about. So if you've been as lucky as I have, and if those cornerstones have helped me have a really rich career in all dimensions that you can think of, what better way to give back than through impact investing? And in fact, there's no better place for me to get a great look at some phenomenal potential investments than looking at the SEs that come through Miller Center.